What's up, guys? It's Coach Gaglione here. This is another edition of Powerlifting for the People podcast. We got my man Mike, Lauro here today. How you doing, bro?
What's up? Good. How are you?
Good to have you. I guess we've been kind of working together for a couple of years, starting your powerlifting journey. So just really quick, can you just tell the people watching, people listening, who you are and what you got going on right now?
Mike from Staten Island. Right now I'm just trying to get healthy and put up a big total, go to the Arnold, and be competitive.
So yeah, if you want to maybe talk a little about like some of your best competition lifts, a little bit of your iron cred, and then maybe kind of also like where you started out like before like the last couple of years.
My best lifts were I squatted 720, I benched 420, and I deadlifted 690, and that was all in the 220 and 242 classes. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards heavy 240s. I'm really trying to get down just to be healthier and be a little more competitive, and hoping John here can help me out.
Very cool. So I want to kind of rewind a little bit. I know, when we first met, you were just getting involved in powerlifting. I think maybe you did like a deadlift only meet or something, and just kind of dabble in it. But how did you kind of get into fitness initially, even before powerlifting? What kind of drew you to the gym, and how did you kind of get started with that?
I was always kind of fat as a kid, so I got myself in the gym at an early age. Like I think I was in the gym in 8th grade, just doing random like cable pull down, stuff like that. I didn't really know what I was doing. And that followed me into high school, where I kind of started doing like the barbell lifts. And then I actually met my friend Rob, who you know. I met him at a local gym, and he kind of drew me into powerlifting, got me into like the RPS meets and all that stuff, because I was on a path to nowhere. I didn't know what I was doing, so he kind of helped me out a lot. And he actually brought me to you. So
you were kind of like working out versus like training. You didn't really have a goal.
Yeah, just like heavy here and there. I was a real pro.
Yeah, we had Rob on the podcast, and we were talking about the Staten Island split, the body, just kind of one body part a day, and just kind of maybe legs only once a week, because you gotta hit all your upper body.
Yeah,
make sure you get all the upper body muscles. So yeah, so I guess so. Was there anything in particular? I guess Rob kind of maybe nudged you a little bit, but what made you decide that you wanted to be a little more competitive, start competing? Obviously, like in the beginning, you're just getting your feet wet, you're just kind of learning. Obviously now, you're talking about you want to go to the Arnold, you compete at the Arnold as well already, and then you hit some great numbers there. You're kind of climbing the ranks a little bit. You're hitting some really good numbers. Was there any like a defining moment where you want to take this a little bit more serious, put a little bit more time and effort to it? What was that like for you?
I'm just a really competitive person. I think I told you like last week, I just want to be the best. So
yeah.
That's kind of my driving factor. I just, when I do something, I just want to do it the best. So it just drew me in. Now here I am.
So was there anything that I know you talked about kind of staying healthy and stuff, as you've gotten stronger, like what are some like changes that you've had to make, or maybe some, things that are different from when you started as far as your training goes, or just, what you're kind of doing day to day?
I think as you get more competitive, the little things become more important, like sleep, stretching, mobility work, stuff like that.
Just prepping your workout instead of just getting under the bar right away, things like that.
I struggle with that a lot, so that's what I have to really improve on to get myself further.
And I think sometimes like having a coach is not always about like the magic program. It's not always about. It's really just having someone to kind of keep you in check.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it can be really hard to I want to
max
out today. I want to do this, and it's like, dude, you're like 5 months out from your meet. Like you don't need to be going like that. Like just having someone to kind of ground you a little bit more.
Yeah.
So there's times to push, and there's times where you got to hold back. And sometimes it can be very hard as an individual because, you have these romantic attachments to certain numbers. You get really fired up, and sometimes logic kind of goes out the window. So I think that's important. If you are a lifter and stuff like that, it's important to, whether it's training partners, a coach, just have someone you can kind of bounce ideas off of and get some feedback, and just have someone to hold you accountable a little bit. I know a lot of time I kind of talk about this all the time. Like I'm not saying like I'm the best coach like ever or anything like that, but I think we do a pretty good job of kind of keeping our lifters in check, keeping them relatively healthy. And when you get to a high level athletics is never truly 100% healthy, but we want to try and mitigate most of the risks as much as possible. Because if you're in the game longer, you're going to ultimately have more success. And it's just going to be a more enjoyable ride. If you're always kind of banged up and blowing stuff off, it's not really fun. You talked about, you want to be healthy and stuff. Obviously, you're getting married next year, so probably want to, make sure your health is good, and, looking good in your suit, right?
Yeah,
So,
not being in a wheelchair.
and how has that been as far as planning the wedding and also trying to train at the same time? Is there any obstacles with that, or how has that been?
I'm able to train. It's just
Kind of make it still a priority for you.
Yeah. I was gonna say, back at home when I'm training with my friends and everything, they always egg me on to go for these big lifts and everything, and I would always say when I'm here, John would never let me do that. So, that's one of the big reasons why I think I'm always hurt, because I just always do stupid stuff like that. So
yeah, so you could have positive or negative peer pressure for sure, but yeah, I think sometimes it's just important to understand. We always talk about what's the intent of the day. If it's a speed day, if it's volume, if it's max effort, understand because if you're supposed to be working on speed and technique, those speed doubles can turn into heavy doubles really quick, especially if you're feeling good, or if you got some people throw another plate on, it's easy. And there's definitely a time and a place for that, but Ed Cohen always talks about really saving your singles, saving those ace cards for the meet, and you only have so many you want to play. So it's important that you kind of play those cards when it matters the most, and obviously that's at the meet. So I think that's really kind of good advice for people. And I think as you're getting closer to the contest, you talked about, you're taking the time out of your day to drive from Staten Island out to Long Island here. It's not necessarily an easy drive, but if you're a competitive athlete, you're kind of choosing excellence over convenience, just to kind of get a little bit more coaching, have someone hold you accountable, and just make sure your kind of weights are in check, because sometimes those decisions are hard, and that allows you, I'm sure, to focus a little bit more on being an athlete and not so much analyzing. So he's not using as much resources up here. He can just focus on just moving the weight and not have to think about what weight to put on and things like that. So not to say you don't want to think for yourself, because I think it's important to have that open conversation with your coach, but the less you have to worry about, I think that's going to be helpful. Any other tips for kind of people starting out? Maybe, because especially now, I know even when we started a couple years ago, it wasn't as much on social, it wasn't as many people posting their training and stuff. I'm sure it can be really easy to get distracted with focusing on your own goals. What's some advice to some of the newer lifters starting out, if they're starting their powerlifting journey and they want to?
My biggest advice would be definitely take your time, take it step by step, because I did a lot of stupid things in the start of my powerlifting career. Like I said, I was a pro before I started powerlifting, so I was already kind of strong before I started doing powerlifting style training, and I was doing stupid rounded back deadlifts, and I think I herniated my disc.
Not really pay attention to technique and things like that.
Yeah, there's really nothing you could do after that to fix that. So I would definitely take it easy. Make sure you got the form down, get a coach, and help them guide you through it.
A lot of people nowadays, especially in our New York, New Jersey area, everyone's in a rush, right? So, but obviously you're still taking. I know you said you got a wedding, you're planning a wedding, you drive out here. So, if people are kind of maybe what advice can you give somebody that maybe doesn't have a lot of time to train, or they feel like they're in a rush? What advice would you kind of give them if maybe they're kind of they're in a time pinch? I know you said take your time. What would you say about obviously you're driving out here, you're spending a little bit more time in the car. What's the advantage of going out to a facility like this, or just training with a group? What are some of the big benefits that you've seen over the years?
Training with the group is, I think, very important, because you have everyone around you just supporting you. Even just throwing weights on and not having to do that yourself.
Everyone's kind of helping set up, clean up, and
cheering you on. That helps a lot. The loud music, the environment, the coaching, everything is just a lot better than just training at a commercial gym by yourself, or even with a few friends. So that's one of the main things why I come out here.
Cool. If someone was maybe kind of on the fence of competing or just trying out powerlifting, maybe they're a little they're not sure where to start, they're not sure if it's for them, what kind of advice would you give someone in that case?
For me at least, I knew it was for me as soon as I started, because I love getting stronger, increasing the weight, getting more competitive. So if you're not really that competitive, I wouldn't recommend powerlifting. That's just me. I don't know. What would you say?
I think it kind of goes back to the approach of it. So in your case, obviously, your driving force is a little bit different than someone who's a more recreational lifter. I think that it's important that you understand why you're getting involved in it in the first place. So are you just trying to be part of the club to say because I think there's some people that like to just be associated with the thing, that's becoming and whatever. I'm not to say that there's nothing wrong with that, because I think the community part is really important. But I think, like, for myself, one of the reasons that I still compete, we talked about this at our seminar, is that I want to make sure that I have a pulse on what you guys are doing. I'm practicing what I preach, and I can kind of lead by example. I don't want to say I don't care about the numbers I lift anymore, because obviously I do, and I have that competitive background too. I was an athlete, I played football and I wrestled, and I do have that competitive fire in me too. But to me, it's more of that drive. I care more about, like, what's the impact I can make if I'm setting an example, if I'm still competing, if people have, like, say, hold me in a higher regard, have more respect for me, that sort of thing. Whereas, like, I'm not trying to break an all-time world record, like a Larry Williams, something like that. For you, it's like, you might, like, for you, it's probably like, yeah, I want to go to the Arnold and I want to win. Whereas other people might just want to go to a local meet and they just want to, like, have a goal to shoot for and have a target, and it gives them a reason to train, and maybe they want to hit their personal best. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. Just understand, like, which lifter you are. Are you going to do this, like, really competitive, and do you want to go all in, and do you want to maybe sometimes have to sacrifice your health a little bit, sacrifice, some time with friends and family and things like that? Or do you want to kind of do it, and you could take it as extreme or as recreational as you want. And I think that's one of the cool things about powerlifting, but just understand who you are, and part of understanding who you are is understanding who you're not. Something that Mark Bell says all the time. I think he learned, something his father told him, and I think that's a really big thing to understand, like, hey, maybe you're not trying to deadlift 800, or maybe you're not, but maybe you're just trying to hit a new milestone, or maybe you're just trying to just keep that competitive fire going a little bit. So whatever your reason is, maybe you want to be strong for your kids. You want to be like a stronger parent. You want to kind of inspire your kids to be into health and fitness and kind of do that. I think the benefit of a meet versus just going to the gym to train is that it forces you to be more consistent, because you don't want to show up and not perform well. So I think even if it's just that, and it just gives you something to train for, and it gives you a positive focus, and it's not just like, because a lot of times if you're not feeling so great, and I'm sure you feel like this, there's, as much as you love it, there's probably days you're maybe a little tight, or you don't want to really, like, man, do I really want to train today? But you have that meet coming up, so you gotta show up, right? You gotta show up to the gym. So I think that's kind of the power. It just allows you to be more consistent over time. And not to say that you can't take a day off here and there, but I think for most people, especially in the United States, we don't work. Most of us aren't working a manual labor job. We have to have this artificial work because our lives are, for the most part, pretty easy. We're not like slaving away. We're not like hitting sledgehammers to stones, and we're not like outside like busting our butts. Whatever the case may be, a lot of us have more cushy kind of jobs. So I think it's important that we can still learn the importance of hard work, and we kind of get that. And also, like you talked about, working together with a team. I think there's a lot of benefits to kind of training together. There's a lot of benefits to training for a competition, not just from a physical standpoint, but I think from a psychological standpoint too. And I'm sure that you've grown a lot. You've gotten probably a lot more mentally tough than you were before. I'm sure you could push yourself a lot harder than you did when you first started, right? Would you say? Mm-hmm. So I think those are all great things. We're excited to see like kind of where Mike can go in the coming months. So obviously hit like a tune-up meet in the fall, and then obviously ultimately the goal is to go on Arnold and make some noise, right?
Yep, gotta qualify first.
Cool. If people want to find out, I know you're not like crazy huge like social guy, but if people want to like find out more about you or check out like your Instagram, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram. I think my name is Lauro_Mike. I think, I'm not sure.
You can tell he loves it so much. But I think he's a little bit more focused on his training than just like the social, which I think is great. So I think that's awesome. So give Mike a follow. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, please give it a 5-star review. Check out the links below. Please subscribe. And if you give us a review, it helps other people find it. So we really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.